Welcome to another episode of the Steal a Moment podcast with me, Michael LeBois. Today's episode features the voice of Denver sports, Jerry Schemmel. Jerry Schemmel is a phenomenal broadcaster for many, many years as he's worked with both the Denver Nuggets and Colorado Rockies and is now currently an analyst on 104.3 The Fan here in Denver, Colorado. Jerry is one of the best guys I've ever had the opportunity to talk to. He's an avid cyclist, health guru, a very faithful man, and a wonderful human being with a great story to tell. Very excited to have the opportunity to talk to him. It's a bit dated, unfortunately, due to just some time constraints and some time-sensitive episodes. But the good news is most of the things that we talked about are still relevant right now. Sports made it all the way through. The NBA is heading to the finals. I believe that starts tomorrow. And then you have the NHL, which made it to the championship. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The MLB, which is currently in its midst of its playoffs. And the NFL, as of yesterday, had its first set of cases of COVID-19 and has led to a postponement of one game. So it's impressive to kind of see how the leagues have handled these things. And Jerry and I kind of talk about that and talk about his career, his love of sports, and his love of just life in general. The man has some of the best advice I've ever heard of any human being I've talked to, and I truly can honestly say I love this man. So thank you to our sponsor, Aether's Oath, to Mosaic, the band who helped get all the music for the intros. Those guys will be guests soon, I promise. We have to figure that out. Nima, call me. With that being said, Jerry and I would like to steal a moment. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Michael, good. How are you?
Good, man. It's been a couple of years. It's good to hear your voice again.
Yeah, you too. Good to be with you.
So this is really easy. It's just a conversation, just posing questions and just seeing how things are going. I know it's been kind of an interesting year for you on the front of being let go by the Rockies, and now you're with 104.3 The Fan. How's that transition been for you, and how's it be not being in a broadcast booth for?
It's good, Michael, just to kind of be working again, be back in the saddle and doing a few things on the air, but it's not play-by-play, and it's something I haven't done for 31 years now, so it's a little bit of an adjustment, and I miss it, but it's fine. It's good. I'm glad I'm doing something.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm lucky at this time to have a job right now. I'm working in the industry as well as an advertiser and helping out where I can. And then I also got furloughed from a play-by-play job doing high school games here in Colorado. So I miss that as well. It's something I'm very excited about. And actually, you are one of the reasons I wanted to become a broadcaster.
Wow.
I grew up a diehard Nuggets fan. Listening to you on the radio, so to get a chance to actually be in contact with you has been amazing. So,
well, cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Of course. One of the things I noticed as I was looking through some history about you, you started out with the Minnesota Timberwolves, weren't you? With Kevin Harlan back then.
I was. Yep.
Tell me about that and how the two trajectories kind of just went different routes. Did you just because you chose different sports, or because you guys just decided to go different ways?
I think probably because Kevin is a lot better than I am. that's probably why. That's probably why we went different directions. Obviously, he's big time. He's been working at the network level for so long now. But he was kind of an up and coming guy back then in the early '90s. And he, the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of hired him, and he commuted from Kansas City and still did some Chief stuff and some network stuff. And we were just lucky to be together. We kind of shared the play-by-play duties for 2 years up there, and just had a great time. But he went on to bigger things, and I came to Denver and started doing the Nuggets, so all was good.
Would you say that baseball is probably the dream position, right? Is that where you wanted to be all along?
Yeah, it was, Michael. It was, baseball is always my sport. I played college baseball and coached at the college level, and always thought that would be the ultimate for me, would be Major League Baseball. And to be honest, I never thought I was going to get there. I got that job with the Rockies at age 50, which normally doesn't happen to people like me. So got really lucky getting that job, and for 10 years. So feel very grateful.
Do you have a favorite moment from your time as a broadcaster, like something that you will never forget, that one time that you got to make that one call, or the one time you were just like devastated by a play? Like I have those already, and I'm always curious.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I think when I was doing the Nuggets, obviously the playoff series, my second year against Seattle, when the number 8 seed knocked off the number 1 seed, first time in NBA history, and to get that win on the road in Seattle against a team with the best record, and the Nuggets were, I think, 2 games over 500 the whole year. So just one of the great upsets in pro basketball history. To be part of that was really fun. There were a couple games that the Nuggets got beat the buzzer that were really difficult to take. And then the season where the team won 11-71. That was a long year, Michael. That was, one point I look back, one point they were 5-68, I think, something like that, 5-65. And so really kind of rallied to win 11 games and went 2-39 on the road. That was a long season. With the Rockies, I think Nolan Arenado's Father's Day walk-off home run hit for the cycle in 2017 was probably the highlight of the 10 years that I did the Rockies. Obviously some disappointing broadcasts and games there, but those kind of handfuls stick out.
Yeah, I remember that 11-win season very fondly because it's the reason Carmelo Anthony got to come to Denver. And it's interesting too, because I think that's the dichotomy of sports in Denver is you have, the Broncos who've been consistently good for 50 years. You have the Avalanche who had a couple down years, but more or less have been solid. But the Nuggets and the Rockies have always been this strange dichotomy of not quite being bad, but not quite being good. What do you kind of attest that to as now a fan or an analyst in the sports world?
Yeah, I just think it's hard, I think, especially Major League Baseball, to stay competitive year after year. That's why, unless you're a big market team with a lot of money to spend like the Dodgers, when your payroll is literally twice what it is of most teams, including the Rockies in Major League Baseball, you can afford to make mistakes when you can't at the Denver level. And I think in the NBA, there's a lot of parity. I mean, you got small market teams winning championships. I mean, look at the San Antonio Spurs run. I think that's the smallest market in the NBA, and they've been good for how long? 20 plus years. So it's just, I think, the nature of the game. I think there's some luck involved, good and bad. I think there was a stretch of 4 or 5 years when I was doing the Nuggets where they just had bad luck. It seemed like the right draft pick didn't turn out, or there were injuries or coaching changes or ownership changes or something. There was always something outside of the basketball court that seemed to affect that win-loss record. So I think there was some bad luck involved, and maybe now with the Nuggets, they got a really good team. Maybe there's some good luck involved. They've made some great drafts and some great moves, and I'm excited about their team.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited that we have 3 competitive teams right now in this phase. Unfortunately, at the day of this recording, the Rockies bullpen forgot how to play baseball today, but that's okay. And the Avalanche had a great win in Game 1, which is also fun to see. How do you feel in this age of uncertainty with sports? Do you think we'll have an NFL season? Do you think that baseball will make it to the end? And what do you think about the bubble system that the NBA and NHL have kind of put in place?
Yeah, I just got a hunch that baseball is going to finish out. I don't know what it's going to look like, Michael, for sure, and whether all teams will be there at the end or not. I don't know what that looks like, but I just have a feeling it's going to work. It is semi-working right now, and even when the time came when I thought the league might have to shut down because of the Marlins situation, they're back playing in a week. I mean, they were right back on the field a week later, which is really kind of surprising to everybody. But now they're playing well. So yeah, I think baseball is gonna make it. I think the NBA and the NHL have it kind of figured out with the bubble system, which really wasn't an option in Major League Baseball. You could kind of do, a regional bubble type of thing, but not what they're doing now, where everybody's isolated in one area. So I think they've got that figured out. I think it's actually working. So I'm excited to see the NBA playoffs. The NHL playoffs have started, and like you said, the Avs have this great young team and a great win today. So I'm excited for hockey, excited for basketball, and I do think Major League Baseball is gonna get to the end. I don't know what the end looks like. NFL right now, it seems like it's all right. And what I keep waiting for, like everybody else does in the world, not just America, is for this thing to get better, for the numbers to get better, each day, rather than wake up and saying, oh, another college football conference is saying they're going to play again. And what's going to happen tomorrow? It's just bad news after bad news. We're waiting that time where good news follows good news. And I think we're right around that corner. I'm not sure we're there yet, but maybe by the time the NFL season starts, we might be there.
I'm right there with you. I just realized what today is. Today is, in fact, a No Whine Wednesday, as I have noticed on your Facebook. Explain a little bit about your No Whine Wednesdays as we get into
the conversation. Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, thank you. Bring that up, Michael. It was just sort of my idea, and wine is spelled with WHINE, not wine like you drink, but wine like you complain. And I just thought, of all the negative stuff happen in the world, let's not complain about it too much. How about we just try to be positive for one day? So No Whine Wednesday is a challenge for my Facebook followers and friends to not whine for a day, not to say anything bad or negative, but to be positive and encourage people and just see if you can make a difference in somebody's life for one day. The reaction to it's been amazing. I'm surprised how many people have actually taken the challenge and told me they have done kind of good and not so good on some days. But you know what, Michael? They're thinking about it, and that's the thing. They're conscious of it. And maybe if you blurt out something you didn't want to say, at least you thought about the fact that, you know what, maybe next time that thought comes to my head, I might not say that, or I might not write that email or that tweet, whatever it might be. I might not say that negative thing about somebody or someone or a politician or an athlete or whoever it might be. So just to get people thinking about a little more positive rather than negative, I think it's just the right thing to do in this day and age.
I completely agree. I wish more people would participate in No Whine Wednesdays. And if you guys are watching this on a Wednesday, try it out. See how it goes. See if you can enjoy this as well as I have. I definitely have been bad today. Rough day at the day job and rough day watching a little too much NHL hockey today as well. But besides that, you're also an avid cyclist. How has this time frame kind of affected that? Have you been able to do some of the same runs and routines that you normally do? I know you do a cross state run every year, right?
Yeah, I have anyway. I didn't do it this year because of the pandemic, but yeah, to answer your question, I've been able to get on my bike. That's one thing we've been able to do as recreational athletes is we can still ride. You don't have to wear a mask when you ride. That's not mandatory. So I'm really honestly blessed and thankful that I've been able to ride my bike through all this, and I can do it anytime. Probably not in a group setting, which I don't do too much of anyway, but yeah, I just really enjoy cycling. There's something about it, Mike. I don't know what it is. It's I don't know, the exertion or the stress or you can go fast, or it was my first means of transportation as a 4-year-old. I don't know what it was, but I just really love getting out on my bike and pedaling. And I've done across America 3 times, once as a race, twice as a ride, across Colorado several times, and set some records and just had a really good time and raising funds in the process in most of these races. I just had a really good time doing it. It's something I'm really passionate about.
That is one of those things that I unfortunately never learned how to do. And it's something that I've been planning on every summer for like the last 3 years. This year, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances and what has happened, I haven't had the opportunity to go get a bike, set myself up and get that going. But that is definitely on the list for this next year when I get into a more settled position is to learn how to ride a bike at 34 years old.
Well, there you go. Hey, you seriously never have learned how to ride a bike?
No, I've
Wow.
tried and attempted
Wow.
several times, and it's never clicked. I rode a skateboard as a kid, so I
Yeah.
did that instead. And I was a runner, so I ran
Okay.
in grade school and high school. So
Yeah.
that was my mode of transportation was my legs.
Well, you know what? My father, he lived to be 87 years old, never learned how to ride a bike.
Oh wow!
Never learned how to swim or ride a bike. And here I am, this swimmer and this cyclist, and I didn't obviously get it from him. But no, he never learned how to ride a bike either. In fact, I've got a friend who's 21 who has never learned how to ride a bike either. So you're not alone in that category.
Whew, that makes me feel a lot better. So in that case, then, with the cycling and the swimming, have you done any triathlons?
I have. Yeah, I haven't done any for a long time because I had a knee replacement. Oh, it's been 11 years. To be 11 years this fall, I've had that. So they say not to run. If you run a lot, it's going to really wear that knee out. I probably have to second or third one. So I haven't done any for a decade, but I think I've done 9 or 10, 11 maybe back in the day. Nothing extravagant, nothing real long. I think I did a half Ironman distance triathlon one time, but just some sprint stuff. And I guess I did one a couple of years ago and kind of jogged through the run. I actually walked part of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I wish I could because I love that triathlon. Really love the sport.
That's one of those things that I've always, if you're strong at one, you can kind of rely on that one section.
Yeah.
I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to a friend of mine. I think it might have been one of my girlfriend's friends who, it was her dad. I apologize. Who I believe he is not a very strong swimmer, but he just would power his way through the swim as best he could to get to the portions that he was stronger at. But he swam just to get it done. and I feel like that might be some of the methods that people have used in the past if they don't have the right training for that. I'll verify my source on that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've seen it in triathlons. I've seen. I got a friend who's an excellent triathlete who is terrible swimmer, just cannot get the swim down, and he trains all the time. He trains like crazy, and he just gets so far behind. But once he gets on that bicycle and gets on the run, forget about it. I mean, he kicks everybody's butt. So no, that's a great thing about triathlon. You can be good at one or two. You don't have to be good at all three, or you don't have to be good at two, but you can be good at one or decent at one and still complete a triathlon. And the thing is, most people, 99% of people, Michael, are doing it just to do it, not to win the race. So just to get it done is a great accomplishment. So I would encourage you, my friend, to learn how to ride a bike. That's number one. That's your first goal. And secondly is to finish a triathlon someday.
All right. Consider it done.
I'm challenging you.
I now have an official challenge. I will do my best. And you know what? We'll stay in touch about that for sure. Because I definitely want to try and make that a thing. So I also was looking through, and you've written a book called Chosen to Live. And that's about your experience with the Flight 232 plane crash, correct?
Right.
Yep. And explain a little bit about that. I don't actually know a whole lot about that story. So.
Yeah. I survived a plane crash in July of 1989, a flight that was from Denver to Chicago, and we blew an engine about halfway to Chicago, tried to crash land in Sioux City, Iowa. And there was so much damage to the aircraft because of an engine explosion that we were crippled, basically. The plane was crippled, and they tried an emergency landing, but with so little control, we hit down and flipped over and broke into pieces. And there were 296 people aboard, and 112 died. Oh. So almost 2/3 of us lived, not quite that many. And I was one of the fortunate ones, obviously, to survive when almost everybody around me died. I was in a circle of people who perished in the crash, and I came out without any serious injuries. So, a difficult circumstance, and I'm glad I got through it. And I wrote that book, like you said, Chosen to Live, about the crash and life subsequent to it.
That's an amazing story, Jerry. Like, to think that there's a chance that, we would have never known you as the voice of the Denver Nuggets or the voice of the Colorado Rockies because of this one thing that is a huge difference. So It's an amazing story to tell. I'll definitely have to pick up the book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, unfortunately. I will, and I will get back to you on that as well.
All right.
So you said that you did play some college baseball. You also coached at your alma mater, Washburn, right?
Washburn University, yeah, Topeka, Kansas.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
the Ichabods.
Oh, the Ichabod.
How about that for a nickname?
There you go. Was your mascot Ichabod Crane?
Yeah, it was not Ichabod Crane, but it was well, the founder of the school is a guy named Ichabod Washburn.
Okay.
So they called him the Ichabods, but he looked like, Ichabod Crane a little bit. They kind of dressed him up that way. There has been, Michael, this is so funny. There has been a movement every year since I was there, which is 40 years ago, to change the mascot name. Because nobody likes Ichabods, but it's never been changed, so we're still the Fighting Ichabods.
That's a unique name, though. I wouldn't want to change it ever. I think there's no other Ichabod in the world that I know of.
That's true, and so that's probably why we have kept that name. It's unique. It's different.
So what were your positions? What did you play in college, or what was your?
I played middle infield. So I played shortstop and second base. I filled in the outfield a little bit once in a while, and I was kind of the backup catcher. I was like the third catcher on the team in case somebody got hurt. I was a catcher as well. I caught in high school a little bit, and pitched a little bit, but not a whole lot. But yeah, middle infield was my spot.
Did you have MLB aspirations?
I did. Yeah, I wasn't nearly good enough. I thought I was a lot better than I was, to be honest with you. But like every kid who plays baseball, and especially when you go on and play college baseball, you think, I'd like to, be in the pros someday and be that professional athlete and make Major League Baseball. And Topeka is only 60 miles from Kansas City. And when I was going to school there, the Royals were awesome. They went to the World Series in 1980 when I was in college, in 1985 when I was in law school. So I became a huge Royals fan and big baseball fan. I thought that would be the ultimate. Didn't even come close to doing that.
My mom actually lived in Kansas City at that time, and George Brett used to be a regular at the country club that my mom's husband at the time used to work at. So I've heard some very interesting stories about George Brett, both good and both nefarious.
There are those stories about George, both good and bad. Yes,
yeah, but
I hear you.
Man, what a ball player. That guy.
What a player.
You want to talk about a guy who cared about the game as much as anybody, and was arguably one of the best hitters to ever put a bat in his hands.
I agree with you.
Clint Hurdle was on those teams as well, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Clint was on those teams. There were, I think, not sure if he was on that 85 team. He was on the 1980 team because it came up in 79, I think, or 78. So I think by then he was done with the Royals, or maybe had gotten sent down. But yeah, he was a big part of that Royals that move in the 80s as well, early 80s especially.
Do you still hold your allegiance to the Kansas City Royals, or have you kind of shifted as you've been in Colorado?
No, I still like them. I still do. I can't. My wife's a huge Royals fan still, and in fact, way more so than the Rockies. And so, Rockies were my team for a decade, calling their games. But I always in the back of my mind, we're pulling for that American League team, the Royals, and I still do.
So I'm a born and raised Coloradan, and being born in 1986, I was just at that age where when the Rockies came in '93, I was like, we have a baseball team. But the Toronto Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series. And so I am a diehard Blue Jays fan.
Wow.
And have been my entire life. The 21 years of silence between playoff stretches, I grew up into an adult and then got to enjoy the Batista bat flip. But I grew up with the David Cohns, the John Oleroods, the Ed Spriggs, Otis Nixon, Roberto Alomar teams.
Yeah.
So I totally understand like that feeling of loyalty for the AL team, even though I have my NL team in my backyard. What about other sports? Did you have loyalties to other organizations like growing up? Who were your teams?
Yeah, not really. I grew up in a small town in South Dakota. We were about 3.5 hours, 4 hours from the Twin Cities. So Minnesota Twins were my first team. I was a diehard Twins fan growing up, and then I kind of switched over to the Royals. Minnesota Vikings were in the backyard, so to speak, and so I was that football fan. My dad loved the Chicago Bears, loved the Bears, so we'd have to watch the Bears every Sunday, so I became a big Chicago Bears fan, and as do as did my brothers. I have 4 brothers, and my older brother is a fanatical Bears. I mean, it's sick. He has watched, my brother Jeff has watched the Bears Super Bowl victory in 1986. He said at least 100 times. and Michael, I'm not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. He said, because I asked him not too long ago, I said, how many? He said, got to be at least 100. It's probably way more than that. I said, how? Well, I watch it probably once a week. I said, are you kidding me?
Wow.
You still watch that Super Bowl game? So anyway, I'm off track there, but the Bears were, they were the big, and then I liked the Chicago Bulls even back in the 70s and 80s, before Michael Jordan got there. I was a big Chicago Bulls fan. I think the reason for that was I could get the Bulls games on the radio at night in South Dakota. WBBM, I think they were on. So those are my teams.
That's awesome. For me, it's so I grew up in a household of New Yorkers. So my grandfather was a diehard Yankees fan growing up. So when he found out I was a Blue Jays fan, he tried to write me out of the will. And my grandmother, who's from Brooklyn, told him at least I wasn't a Red Sox fan, so he was fine with it. Then, of course, we grew up with season tickets to the Broncos. My grandfather actually won them in the lottery when they were doing the lottery in 1962. So we had them from 1962 to 2009. Where we had to sell the lot number. We just couldn't do it anymore. My dad was living part-time here, part-time in Wisconsin, so it just didn't work. And my stepmom is a Packers fan. I think she might have had something to do with it. Just kidding, Barbara, if you're watching this. I'm messing with you. But I also grew up a Nordiques fan. I loved the Quebec Nordiques because my great-grandparents are French-Canadian. So it was either the Habitants or the Nordiques. And so being from Quebecois, I was a huge Nordiques fan, and when they announced they were coming to Colorado, my favorite team came to me. And then, winning 2 Stanley Cups in 5 years doesn't hurt as well. And then my dentist growing up was the dentist of the Denver Nuggets. So I used to get floor seats to go to Nuggets games with them sometimes. And my first game ever was against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Mike somebody, right? Your dentist, Mike? What's his name?
Mike Dunn.
Mike Dunn. Yes, I know Mike Dunn. Yeah.
So
Mike
he was yes. Yeah. They've been family friends for a long time. Unfortunately, cool. I moved out of Southeast Denver, so I had to find a new dentist. But he would come in and be like, I have tickets to the Bullets game tonight with George Mirasan. Do you want to go? And I would be like, yes, give me the tickets. And
George Mirasan, I forgot about that guy.
And and it was at Old McNichols. So back then, that was when you were on the floor seats, you could walk through the vomitoriums to go to the bathrooms, and they were in the locker room spaces. So I'm walking, and this gigantic man walks past me, and I look up, and it's Dikembe Mutombo. And it was when he had I think he dislocated his finger, and he was in a brace, and he just pats me on the head, and he says, "Nice to meet you," in that deep Mutombo voice.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's something I will never, ever forget. Who are some of the players that you've gotten to cover over your lifetime as a broadcaster that you will never forget and have fond memories of through your time with the Nuggets and Rockies? Yeah,
you mentioned one already, Mike. I like Dikembe Mutombo might be my favorite player ever to cover. Just a guy that just – well, you saw him. He was out there to win every night. That was his goal, and he would do whatever it took. And probably you got to put him on the top defensive centers in NBA history with his shot blocking ability and his rebounding prowess and all that. But just his will to win and a great teammate and funny off the court and all that. Just a really good guy. Another guy that was I was a big fan of was LaFonso Ellis, who was on, some of those teams with Mutombo. And he was destined for greatness until he got hurt, blew that knee out, and really was not the same player after that. But just a wonderful guy and a great personality, and we still keep in contact today a lot. And then I think in the NBA, my favorite player that I covered was John Stockton. I just thought, Michael, he just played the ultimate point guard that anybody could ever play. That is the purest point guard that you'll ever see in John Stockton. I don't know if anybody will ever break his assist record. No. I mean, it's out there, and nobody's even close, really. So, but he was the same way as Mutombo, always just wanting to win and would do everything it took. And if they lost, he would never talk to the media, ever. If they won, he was the nicest man in the world. I love that about him. Now, I shouldn't love a guy who doesn't talk to the media, but I respected the fact that he was so mad that he lost, he got beat that night, that he didn't want to talk to anybody. He just wanted to go home. So, and just watching him play and, dissect teams with his passing was just really a lot of fun for me.
That guy had the best court vision of anybody I've ever watched play basketball in my entire life.
Yeah, I agree.
I cannot believe the lanes he would find to put the ball in the hands of Karl Malone and Jeff Hornacek. He found spaces where guys' legs were coming together, and he'd know exactly where the spot would go. I love John Stockton. I know Dennis Rodman doesn't love John Stockton, but no, Stockton is definitely up there on my list of favorites that I've ever gotten to watch. And Mutombo, arguably painfully underrated as an NBA superstar, in my opinion. And I think it's because he never was settled in one place for a very long time. He was a very great journeyman center who, was arguably one of the best defensive centers in NBA history. And I loved watching him play because he played with attitude. He always had a smile on his face. He just the not in my house, the finger wave is still something that's brought up today. And he's been out of the league for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. I also have to ask you about some of your calls. So I think we've talked about this in a previous interview we did when I was at the Colorado Media School, but I want to ask, where did Jumanji come from? That's the one call I've been asked about a bunch when I told people that you were going to be on here. Jumanji, that's the NBA call of NBA calls. Where did that come from?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's from the movie. We watched that movie, we being my wife and kids, watched it together one night, and my kids were terrified of that movie, absolutely scared to death of it. And I was some of my early days with the Nuggets, and I was just kind of searching for some kind of goofy catchphrase, and I really didn't, I didn't need one, but I felt like, all right, if I can find one, well, then what about this movie? So I watched the movie one night with my family and thought, Jumanji, everybody kind of knows the movie. I'll let it sink in for a while. And so the movie was out for several months, and then I thought, I'll just put it to the test. And so I did. But what I want to do, Micah, was not overuse it. And I only used it really in clutch situations, big shots to win games, or that might take a lead late. So I didn't overuse it, which I think was smart on my part. But it came from that movie. It came from the Robin Williams movie Jumanji, which is still one of my favorite movies.
My girlfriend and I talk about that movie all the time, actually, because a lot of the actors kind of just appear in different things over the times, and we both have really enjoyed the new ones that have come out recently with Jack Black and Kevin Hart, mainly because there's little nods to the original film in there.
Right.
There's certain cast choices that they made that are very interesting, and I've been kind of enjoying that. That's great to know the history of that is just seeing the movie. That is one of those things that sticks with a person like myself, who I've been wanting to be in broadcasting for a long time, but I never took the leap until I turned 30. And I always thought that it was, out of my reach. It was something I could never do. But I was actually going to be an educator. And what ended up happening was I failed the test to get my license. And I was in a really lost place. I was really lost. And all of a sudden, James Gomez comes on my radio for the Colorado Media School. And my best friend sitting next to me, and he says, "That's what you need to go do." And I signed up the next week and was in classes the next week. Since then, I've hosted television network stuff for Denver Public Schools. I've run boards for different networks. I was with Altitude as an intern for a little while. I've done play-by-play for baseball, soccer, football. I've gotten my teeth now, and I'm starting to really love it. But at 33, I still feel like I've just missed my mark to do it in a bigger level. What would you say would be a solid piece of advice if I were to say try and continue to move this into a career?
Well, I can tell you this, and I said this earlier, Michael. I got the Rockies job at age 50. I mean, I honestly did not think that would ever happen, because usually when these jobs come open, especially in baseball, when you're looking for a number 2 announcer, Jack Corrigan is number 1. They're looking for a young, cheap hotshot. It's really what the market calls for. And so I was shocked to get that job. So if I can get a job at age 50, you can get one at 33. So I don't know if you remember Steve Albert, Al Albert's brother, Marv Albert's brother, the broadcasting trio there. He started doing the Phoenix Suns TV at age 58, I believe.
Wow.
So, I mean, he had been around the league for several different teams, but, he got a job at age 58 doing NBA basketball, and he was there for a long time. So it's not really my advice would be it's not age people are looking for. It's talent and commitment and passion. So you've got that. Don't let your age hold you back would be my advice.
Thank you. That's one of those things that I have always kind of learned over these last few months, really over this entire pandemic, is just sometimes we are our worst obstacle, the person in front of you in the mirror, that you are the person who's the only blockade. And through this, I've had a lot of time to think. That's why I've started this podcast that I delayed for 4 years. I finally just said, I need to do this. And that's part of me taking this unfortunate situation that we're in the world right now and turning it into a positive. And I'm hoping that when the doors open to get back to calling games again for myself and my team, that we excel and take that opportunity to have worked on our chops and worked on things that we normally wouldn't do, and fine tune the little things to make it better.
Right. I hear you. And I say the same thing to myself too. I think if I ever get back into play-by-play, which I may not, at age 60, there's probably not a great market for guys like me, but if I did, I'm going to appreciate it as much as I ever have and be as good as I ever have been. And like you said, try to eliminate the weaknesses and strengthen your good points. And that's all that's all anybody can do in life. If you're at your marriage or being a parent or at your job or at the office, you're always looking to be better, right? You're always looking to be better than you were the day before. And we're never going to get to perfection, but striving to get to perfection is what we're trying to do. And so I think you're right on. And I'm with you totally on that point.
Fantastic. Well, Jerry, I'm going to wrap this up. Let's throw down where people can find you, where they can get in contact with you, things that you're promoting right now, or projects you're working on. Yeah,
we've got a radio show, weekly show called Amazing Americans, which we just signed a deal to syndicate. So in the next, who knows, several months, hopefully it doesn't take too long, we might be nationwide with Amazing Americans. But it's a weekly program on the Fan right now, and I have on guests that are highly motivating and inspirational people. I mean, Mike Eruzione was on, Scott Hamilton was on, Clint Hurdle was a guest recently. So people that have been not just in sports, but any walk of life, who have gone through tragedies and have lived to tell about them and become better people and made the world better as a result. So highly inspiring people. It's been a real blessing to me. It's been just a blast doing it. And that's on Sunday mornings on the Fan at 7:30 and soon to go syndication. And I'm also doing motivational speaking, and people can get a hold of me at jerryschemmel.com.
Fantastic, Jerry. Thank you again so much. And congratulations, man. That's so cool. I'm so happy that show is going into syndication. Everybody needs to hear this. So
thank
that's
you.
Fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, Jerry, it's been a pleasure, man. I will let you know when this is up, and I'll get in contact with you about when it's posted.
Okay. Sounds great, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. You bet.
Bye.
Have a good one. See ya.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life. 'Cause it almost feels like someone else